Welcome to the show and welcome to White Bear, Red Sun. This is pre-dreadnought naval battles for the Russo-Japanese War. After the surprise attack at Port Arthur on the 8th-9th of February by the Japanese, Russian ships from the Vladivostok Squadron sortied from their base to conduct raids against merchant vessels. One raid conducted between 24th February and 1st March swept the Korean coast in the Sea of Japan. This scenario is based on that sortie. The Russian raiders consist of the Rurik and Rossiya, both armoured cruisers. They'll be after the merchant vessels Wishy-Washy and Bonsai Bob. The Japanese squadron, Izumo, Naniwa, and a destroyer flotilla will be out to try and intercept them. We're on the high seas in the Sea of Japan. The two merchant vessels, Bonsai Bob and Wishy-Washy, are in the centre of the table, moving from right to left, and the Russian armoured cruisers, Rossiya and Rurik, are coming on from the left. So a few scenario rules. Merchant vessels will roll as a squadron for action points. They will have a defensive factor of 2 and a maximum speed of 6. The Japanese can arrive after the first attack. They'll have to roll for an appearance and need a 4 to 6 on a 1d6. And they will arrive on a random table edge. And until their arrival, the Russians will always have the initiative against the merchant vessels. The Russians will have the following victory conditions. It's a failure if they have no merchant vessels crippled or sunk, a minor victory with one crippled or sunk, or a major victory with both of them crippled or sunk. Here's the merchant vessels, Wishy-Washy behind Bonsai Bob. They're steaming north, but look out. Here come the Russians. It's automatic initiative for the Russians, so let's see what the action points are. 3. So they will increase speed to maximum for 1. Rossiya leading the way. So merchant vessels will be in a bit of a panic now. Let's see what action points they will have. Well, that is exactly not what the doctor ordered. They will turn and go their cruise speed, which is 4. The Russian cruiser squadron is just out of range, so that is the end of the first turn. Action points 4. So the Rossiya will turn slightly and go maximum speed again. Merchant vessels 1 again, can't believe that. Well, they're going to turn again. They're going to try and outpace the cruisers, but I don't think they can. Now the Rossiya can open fire long range. Attack factor of 3, -1 is 2. And a defensive factor of 2 for Wishy-Washy, 2-2. Well, that's even. Wishy-Washy is hit, but because she doesn't have any armaments, no effect. We've had the first attack, so I need to roll for the Japanese. Are they going to come on? 4, 5, 6 they are. Not yet. Action points for the Russians. 4. They do a slight turn and then max speed. Let's see what the merchant vessels are up to. Okay, they can go max speed now, which is 6. Still just the Rossiya in range. Rurik is outside of range, so again it's a -1 for firing. It's 2-all. That's a win by the Russian firing there, and old Wishy-Washy is damaged. Action points for the Russians. 5. They're just going to keep steaming on that course. What's happening to the merchantmen? God, blimey. Again. So all they can do is go their cruise speed. Well, they can turn, actually. I think they'll do that. The Rossiya will open fire again, but this time supported by the Rurik, and it is not long range. +4 for the Russians, +2 for Wishy-Washy. 9-4. 2 levels of damage. Wishy-Washy is crippled, and that means she can't move. A -2 to defense factor. Good shooting by the Russians. So let's see if the Japanese are getting their act together and coming on yet. Finally. And I'm going to roll 1d4. It is north, east, south or west. They're coming on from the south. And this time I will roll initiative. And it goes to the Japanese. Right, how many action points have they got? 1. Izumo leading the way. I'm going to put the destroyers on the starboard bow. They'll be acting independently, I think. Action points for the Russians, plenty there. think they'll just carry on cruise speed. I want to try and get a last shot off against the merchant vessels before the Japanese arrive. Action points for Bonsai Bob. Oh, only one again. And that's because old Wishy Washy can't move. She will have to stay there. So he will turn there and go 4, trying to escape. Russians will try and finish this one off. Well, it's going to be -1 for Wishy Washy because the centre line extends across the firer. 3 -1. Which is 6-0. And that is attackers total 3 times more than the targets. Well, it's actually infinite. Boom. Wishy Washy gone. And her cargo of rubber ducks bobs around on the ocean forevermore. It's a critical time now for initiative, and I suspect the Russians are going to get a bit more excitement than they've previously had. But they still have the initiative there. I'll tell you what they're going to do is get the Japanese to move first. Now, I am going to allow the Japanese to move as 2 groups. So action points for the cruisers, 2. And for the destroyer flotilla, 4. Well, armoured cruisers can go 7. Protected cruisers can go 8. But I want them to stay together. So it's 7 is max. I think they'll turn. And away we go. And the destroyers can go 10. So I think it's a pincer movement. They'll turn there and shoot over here. I think I'll also get Bonsai Bob to move. Action points 4. So she will turn there and go 6 down here. And I think that's made her escape. Crucially now, action points for the Russians. 5. Turn, max speed. And with a smart bit of manoeuvring, the Russian Rossiya has just crossed the T of Izumo. Long range, but it's supported fire, and the centre line of Izumo extends across the Rossiya. 3-all. Well, look at that. That is 9-4. Attackers total twice or greater than the targets. 2 levels of damage. Immediately silenced. So that is no firing, -1 to defensive factor, and she has to do a morale roll. So 3+ required. Oh my lordy, 2. Can you believe it? That means she has to withdraw. And I'm going to turn her immediately in case I forget. So she goes there. It's 3 action points to repair the damage, and then potentially another morale roll to rejoin the fight. I would say the Japanese will return fire now, but they can't. End of turn. Drama. Initiative. Wow, stays with the Russians. And I think they will get the Japanese to go first again. So, cruiser squadron, just the 1. Well, that's no good for the damage reduction. So she has to go. I guess just trundles off. Now, Naniwa, try saying that when you've had a few, will have to turn and only go 4, because otherwise her T is going to get crossed. What can the destroyers do? Well, they've got 6. Right, plenty of stuff going on there. They will turn and go max chat, which is 10. Need to be within 6 inches for a torpedo attack. And finally, Bonsai Bob, doesn't really matter. She will chug off, and that's her off the table at max speed. Russian APs to get 5, that's plenty to play with. I don't need too much, to be honest. Turn slightly and go max speed. Rossiya and the Rurik will open fire on Naniwa. Attack factor of 3 +1 because of support, and because Naniwa's a protected cruiser, her defensive factor is 3, so it's 4-3 to the Russians. This gunnery is extraordinary. 10-6. Attackers total greater than targets, 1 level of damage. Nanina's firing is now -1. She will fire back at Rossiya. 1-4. 5-6. Ooh, no effect. And that's the end of turn. Initiative. Well, unbelievably, it's with the Russians again. They will get the Japanese to move. Let's go for destroyers first. Only the 1. Right. Interesting. Well, it's either turn and go 4 or go on the same course at 10. I think they'll do the latter. Action points for the cruiser squadron. 1 again. Unbelievable. Izumo will just carry on. And I'm thinking matey has to turn and just go the 4. Action points for the Russians. Well, just the one this time. But I don't think it needs to be anything else. They will do max speed again. They've left the destroyers in their wake. And now they're going to gang up on Naniwa. So it's 4-3. Which is 8-5. Attackers total greater than targets. Another level of damage. Naniwa is silenced. No firing. Morale roll. Ha! She's off as well. End of turn. Well, can you believe it? The Russians are having a field day here. But that is a Japanese initiative. Right, cruiser squadron. 2. Can't repair any damage. I think they can still go max speed, which they will do. I'm going to allow the Izumo to escape, but Naniwa is still in the sights. Destroyers. 4. Right, we might get some torpedo action in a minute. They will turn and go 10. Action points for the Russian squadron is 2. I think again all they're going to do is just do max speed down here and hit the Naniwa again. So Naniwa is -1 and she'll be on a defensive factor of 2 now, and Russia will be on 4 because she's supported by Rurik. 4-2, which is 8-3. Attackers total twice or greater than targets. 2 levels of damage. I don't think you can go straight from silence to sunk though, so she is crippled. And that means she can't move. -2 to defensive factor. Wow. End of turn. Initiative. Still with the Russians. They will get the Japanese to go first. Well, of course, Naniwa can't move. Destroyers have 5, so that's more than enough. They're just chasing the cruisers at the moment, and I'll do the same again. They will turn and go 7. And they will fire at Naniwa, who can't do anything. It's 4 to the Russians and -1 to the Japanese. 9-1. And that, I'm afraid, is that. Naniwa is no more. Destroyed, sunk, blown to bits. And I think, to be fair to the Russians, they have certainly won that encounter. They will steam off. The Japanese destroyers over here have seen one ship get completely crippled and limp away, and the other one get sunk, and one of the merchant vessels go down, and they don't fancy it. They're off. So well done, the Russians. That is a major victory, a crushing blow to the Japanese fleet.